on the field at Ohio Stadium for the final time in 2015. Not until the spring game. That's crazy. I was at the Ezekiel Elliott post-game press conference after Ohio State's loss to Michigan State. I asked the questions that got the very interesting rant-like responses from Ezekiel Elliott, and I think that when we step away and we think about it, what does that actually mean for the state of this team, the togetherness of this team, the seniors and the juniors who are expected to leave early? Ezekiel Elliott said he is now going to be leaving early. Not that that's a surprise, but he decided to announce it while he was making that rant. Outside here with Doug Lesmerises, Bill Landis of cleveland.com. Doug, what do you think?
And you're Ari Wasserman.
And I'm Ari. I mean, they know that.
I thought when people talked about Ohio State this year and would they possibly be complacent or bored or anything like that in this season, I always thought I didn't think that was an issue. I thought if anything, they would be too cocky and think they were invincible when they weren't invincible. And to me, that reaction after a loss was a little bit along those lines, that I feel like it's like they almost can't believe that anybody beat them. And they're searching for answers because they're just like, they're shocked. How could anyone beat us? And then when you search for answers, you kind of look for things or people to blame. And so Ezekiel Elliott questioned the play callers. My whole story after the game was saying the play calling is a problem. But to do it like that again, I mean, reporters want honest answers, but so much has gone right for everyone associated with this program for 2 years. Sometimes you lose, man. Sometimes you lose. So I don't think, to me, it's not a sign that the locker room is falling apart or anything like that, or there's a problem in the program. I think it's people who really, really thought they were good and had a lot of confidence, almost disbelieving that they lost.
Bill?
I don't think it's a sign of a bigger thing. I don't think the locker room was splintering or anything like that. I think what's funny to me about the whole thing is, like, that's not the first time that a player has said something like that. It was maybe more demonstrative than it's ever been. But I think, like, it was after the Indiana game, and it's happened several times this year where the offensive lineman had said, oh, we switched to gap blocking, and I don't know what that means, but they switched to plays that worked, very clearly worked, and they had to ask for that to happen on the sideline, which to me was baffling. I don't know how you're up in that booth or you're down here on the field and you're not seeing the same thing that the players are saying. And if you are seeing the same thing that the players are saying and you're not making the necessary switches to have a successful offense, that's a major problem. So maybe some of that was kind of coming to a head where, and Ezekiel Elliott said it, he said that one of the drives where they scored a touchdown, he carried the ball 7 times. It was that gap scheme and he moved the ball well, and then they went away from it. So I think it's maybe a little frustration with the play calling, which is warranted with everything we've seen this year. I don't think it was anything more than just some frustration. I don't think it was a greater sign of these guys don't like each other or anything like that.
I think it's also interesting that Cardale Jones wasted very little time posting on his Twitter that it's the last time he's leaving Ohio Stadium, and maybe that was just a senior day reflection, or maybe it was, I'm out of here. But I think there is a little bit more to the rant than just the team aspect. I think you have to really understand Ezekiel Elliott's mind frame a little bit, the family, everything that has gone into just this kid's career at Ohio State, and I have known them before he got here, and it's just interesting to see it all play out. But here's what I'm going to say. Who's the best player on this team?
Cameron Johnston, the punter.
Who's the best player on this team?
Ezekiel Elliott.
Who's the best player on this team?
That guy. I can't say his name right.
Maybe Joey Bosa. Maybe Joey Bosa.
Joey Bosa, at least the best offensive player on the
Yeah.
team. In the biggest game of Ohio State's season, carried the ball 12 times. And for right or for wrong, it seemed like Ohio State was emphasizing the quarterback run game, which is what JT does the best, and whatever their issues are is passing. But how, just to see it from his perspective, it's a very hard thing to swallow when you've earned the right to touch the ball. I think there's something to that. If you're the team that, or the player that's going to rush for almost 200 yards or almost 700 yards in 3 postseason games and lead this team to a national championship, I think there's a certain expectations that you're going to carry the team again. And you have to understand that as much as they didn't want to talk about the Heisman, they haven't wanted to talk about the Heisman. When you ask him during the week about the Heisman, it meant a lot to him. It meant a lot to him. And I think that they came in and that his father and both he, whether they will admit it or not, wanted tonight to be a playoff-like performance so that he could stamp his name on the Heisman Trophy ceremony and go to New York. So I think it was a lot of things. I think it was disappointment of losing. I think it maybe was hurtful to him that he didn't carry the ball as much as he felt like he should and earned. Because for the 1,000 rep club and all that, there is such thing as earning your keep, and I think he's earned that. And of course, the Heisman.
I have two thoughts that
you were ready to explode the whole time.
They had 45 offensive plays, so if he carried it 12 times, that's about 30% of the time, right? Yeah. They average basically 70 plays a game. So when you carry it 30% of the time, when you have 70 plays, that's 20 carries.
Yeah.
So if he would have gotten 20 carries when they had 45 offensive plays, that's half the offense. The other thing is, Michael Thomas is a first-round receiver. He had 2 catches for 8 yards. Michael Thomas didn't come out. That is as much of an issue to me as Ezekiel Elliott only having 12 carries. Third point, did they lose because they couldn't run? Partly. They lost because they couldn't throw.
I think Ohio State's game plan and the thing that we've always thought about that it was most consistent and best about this team, regardless of JT Barrett and the quarterback competition and the receivers they returned, was, oh my gosh, there's this animal who carried the ball for almost 700 yards in 3 postseason games. And I agree with what you're saying. I do. But it's from his perspective.
Yeah.
And in his perspective, I think he might say that they lost because he didn't carry it enough. Which, if you're one of the best players in college football, don't you think you have to think that way? Whatever. Any last thoughts, Bill?
I'm not carrying the ball enough.
Great. Now we're splintering.
Okay, that's enough. It's been a long season. It's our last home game here in Ohio Stadium. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be in Ann Arbor next week. We're going to be covering this team throughout the offseason. Into the
So selfish.
Yeah, you really are, dude. Thanks so much for all keeping in touch with all of our coverage here at cleveland.com. For Bill Landis, Doug Lamarice, I'm Mario Wasserman. Thanks for watching.